talked to family and friends about money and like the nature of money several times within recent years, and usually what happens is like the economy starts going south, and then people start talking about where they're going to place their money in order to withstand the storm. But I always like to point out to people that it doesn't really have any value. Like the money you have has no value. Like dollars, for instance. This is very simple. This might be really short. We'll see where it goes. But like, if you're placed on a desert island with all the money that you could ever want, a couple $1 billion, you still starve. So money is of no value. The only value that money has is in relation to the things that you might want or need. But that begs the question, what do you want or need? And when you go down the rabbit hole of what you might want or need, the end point is, what is the meaning of life? What is the reason? What is the purpose? Some people might just want to have, like little kids, they want to have like tokens or credits on a video game so that they can reskin their avatars. Or as you get older, you might want like a nice car or a bigger house, or for me, money to send my kid to private school potentially. You have to know what your goal is in order to derive for yourself what the value of money is. Because people say, well, put your money in gold or put your money in silver. But silver and gold fundamentally have little value either, except for maybe what they metallurgically can offer you. So like gold, I guess, gets used in like computer chips or something. But money, precious metals, none of these mean anything. To an extent, like ammunition can be considered a currency as well. Because like if the entire system collapses and it's, people have hoarded gold or silver, well, no one can eat gold or silver, and gold or silver, unless someone has something to give you, is of little use. But if the entire system collapsed, ammunition would be of use, because you can protect yourself, you can protect others, you can hunt for animals and produce food with ammunition. Ammunition has quite a bit of intrinsic value in that sense, because it's very practical. It's very straight line towards its utility. Not to say that you should put all your money in ammunition, because over time that stuff is going to corrode and it's going to lose. That who knows whether the powder is going to last forever. So the more important, I suppose, point of the topic of money is what are you going to use it for? To what end? To what purpose? What is the point? What is the point of it all? The meaning of life. And so if you don't have a clear meaning of life, if you haven't really thought about it, then you're sort of like a mouse in a maze. You don't know what's at the end of it. You're just going through the maze. You might get a whiff of cheese and think, well, maybe there's something cheese-like at the end, but you might take the wrong turns, because you don't really know what's orienting you. And so that begs, I've talked about it probably in multiple videos now, but what is the meaning of life? And so I'm going to try and say it quickly and succinctly, potentially in a different way, but it might come out the same way I always say it. But I spent years trying to figure out what the meaning of life was, because I had some kind of depressive tendencies when I was very young, way before you're supposed to be depressed. But that is a path you can go down. If you make the wrong decisions and go down the wrong paths when you're young, if you don't act out good character, you're gonna go to dark places. And so I've thought about the meaning of life for decades now, and I'm in my late 30s, so decades is most of my life. That's been kind of my goal. It's been sometimes a secondary or tertiary goal, but always in the back of my mind, what was the point of it all? Due to depression, obviously, because when you're depressed, a lot of times it's like, what is the point of it all? But anyway, so the meaning of life. What's the meaning of life? I think that the religions have it right, but I'll try to. You might as well just talk about it from the religious perspective. No, I changed my mind. Not the religious perspective. Let's just talk about first principles. What are we? We are conscious matter. That's what we are. You might think you have a soul. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Who knows? But what we do know is that there seems to be consciousness, and we're made out of stuff. And so we as stuff can change stuff. That's all we can do. There's like 3 things you can do. You can leave reality as it is. You can inject some chaos into reality, or you can bring some order to reality. So leave it alone, chaos, order. There's 2 directions you can go with that. You can go towards what you think is good. So sometimes you have to bring chaos to like a bad situation in order to break up the ruts a little bit so that you can bring order later. So the goal is the good. You're trying to reorient reality towards the good by injecting chaos. Now, alternatively, if you find a chaotic situation, you can inject some order to it. You can try and put the pieces back together and, try and make things a little bit more orderly and thus towards the good. That's one way, and I think that is the meaning of life. You're supposed to do that as a person throughout your life, and you can find really big ways to do that. It can be, there's massive ways that you can bring order to a system. Like, take if you were a politician, for instance, that's an easy example. Some politicians need to inject chaos into the system in order to make it better. Ideally, incremental chaos, because radical change, be it order or chaos, is bad. Radical change is generally bad because you don't know the unforeseen consequences of radical change. And the more radical the change, the more radical the unforeseen consequences tend to be. It's a rule of public policy that they teach you in college when you take public policy courses. So the ideal is to have incremental changes. So you want to be competent, number one, and then make incremental changes either in the direction of chaos or the direction of order. And you can do that, and you can make things happen in your life. You can make things better. You can leave the world a better place. So what's the meaning of life? Well, one way of putting it is leave the world a better place, either by injecting chaos where necessary or injecting order where necessary. Now, alternatively, you can use chaos or order to make the world a worse place. Like, if you are driven by like an anger and a resentment, if that's what possesses you, you can make the world a worse place. Hitler, for instance, possessed by resentment and anger, he wanted to see the world burn. I mean, it's pretty clear that's where it ended up, and he did horrible things. He sacrificed the notion of the value of the individual human. He denigrated humans to be subhuman so that he could then convince his compatriots to murder them. But that's not good. That's bringing order in chaos towards the bad, towards the dark. And so we really do have this, and there are people like that, people that want to make things worse. That's one of the things that they don't really teach us in the modern West, because it's a very soft upbringing that we have. Life is really, really good nowadays, and people don't generally come into contact with people that are genuinely interested in making things worse. You see it a little bit in media sometimes, like the Joker character wants to see the world burn. He wants to genuinely inject chaos to make things worse. You see the injecting order to make things worse. You can see that with the what is it? There's a woman from the Ministry of Magic in the Harry Potter series that her name escapes me right now, but she makes him write his name and scar it into his hand. She's a really evil lady, but a very orderly lady. And so you can use order to bring on badness. And there are people that do that. There's a reason why those things pop up in the stories. You're supposed to see it in the story and be like, oh, that's how reality is, and then apply that to reality. Those stories are, in essence, neural nets. They're software programs for your brain that try and teach you about the patterns in the world. So that pattern of the Joker, while archetypal, meaning very exaggerated, that pattern exists within your mind. And within everyone's mind, that's an archetype, that's a place we can go. And then the woman from Harry Potter that makes him write his "I shall not tell lies" in his hand, as well. That is an archetypal representation. That is an exaggerated representation that's presented in fiction. Again, the point of fiction, I believe, one of the points, let's say, is to train you about what the patterns in reality are going to be. And so that's how we pass wisdom down through the ages. So anyway, money doesn't really have value except to further you towards whatever you're going to derive purpose for in the brief period of time that you're going to be here. But you have to know what that purpose is. And so this revolves back to the meaning of life, which is the name of this channel. The meaning of life is that you have the capability to leave things as they are, which you should. If things are good, leave it alone. If you are competent, you have the capacity to inject some order or inject some chaos. Generally, you want to do that in an incremental way, though, in order to make things good. You also have the capacity to inject chaos or order to make things worse. And you really want to pay attention to what's going on inside your head, because there's a lot of people that unconsciously are oriented towards making things worse because they're just bitter and resentful. And that's where you end up seeing riots and burning and bloodshed in the streets, is because you might consciously think that your ideology is pointed in the right direction, but if the outcome is pandemonium, you're not. You're possessed by that spirit that's seeking to make things worse, because as it's the character Mephistopheles in Faust says, it would have been better to have never been, which you really want to pay attention to notions like that, because I believe there was I think it was a politician out of Arizona recently who was talking about that I think he said that it would have been better if his foster kids had been aborted. That's what was reported. I'm not looking for not that interested in that type of reporting, but that's what's being reported, that he said that, and that is a way some people look at life, because I guess this is going a little sideways because now I'm talking about a different subject that came up recently. There is a dichotomy between the intrinsic divinity of the individual life and the importance of quality of life. And so if you find yourself on the quality of life being superior to the divinity of the individual's life, I believe you are wrong. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that the individual, because the individual has the capability to create a better world, to take us another step towards the utopian notion of heaven, an individual can do that. Your quality of life cannot do that. Now, you might say that, hey, my quality of life improves the chances that I make the world a better place. But if you're sacrificing an individual life to do that, I don't think that that's true. I think you're justifying it, but I don't think it's true. And I think that's why this is perhaps the first time I'll say something controversial, but I think that's why abortion is wrong. Now what you do about that is something different, but then it's wrong. It's, in my opinion, it's on the wrong side of history, because an individual life can change the world for the better, for the worse, or for the worse, obviously, as well. But an individual can change the world for the better, and so that is the divinity. The divine is that which takes us towards heaven. And if you're creating a utopian heaven on earth, even if it takes 10,000 years, when you snuff out the potential of an individual and what they could do in their life, you are taking us, if not backwards, certainly slowing down the progress towards making this place better. So anyway, money to abortion. That's a funny path. But money has no value. You need to find out what it is that drives you. Oh, and here's an example of how to live that meaning of life. The way we evolved to do it is to have kids, because if you have kids and you dump as much of your life and your life force into raising those kids appropriately, those kids are slightly better than you and leave the world a slightly better place than you did. So you do your best to leave the world a better place. At the same time, you train your replacement, basically. And then they do the same, on and on and on, as we trudge up the hill towards the kingdom of God. That's the idea. Now, you may not be able to have kids. Maybe you waited too long. Maybe you don't trust yourself to have kids. A lot of people don't think that they would be good parents. Good. Don't have kids in that case. But that doesn't mean that you can't help the next generation to live on in the hearts and spirits of those that you leave behind. Because you do. If you have a good impact on people, you live on in your spirit, your essence. It lives on in that person. The good that you share with them, they share with others. And so in that sense, you become immortal. But if you can do something to make the next generation, to make them better, then you win. That's the meaning for life. Having a kid may not be in the cards for you, but you can do that. And meaning of life. Money is not money. The meaning of life is not money. Money is just a way that we can potentially further our ability to act out a